Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. So it's been like 2 days. Processing a lot, mostly recently trying to figure out who else can we trust as far as reporting accurately and talking about stuff that's actually important. Like none of the J6 stuff at this point is any type of important if they're not going to do anything about it. None of the Epstein stuff right now is important if they're not going to do anything about it. They keep on wanting to shut that down because there's a lot of people involved in that, and that would be really bad for them if, people start getting revealed to the public for what they've done to children. There's a lot of things that people are talking about that is not important. I mean, it is important, but in the grand scheme of things, it is not. What is important right now is the rollout of digital ID and digital currencies that'll be rolled out. I am hearing, and I don't know how true it is, I hope that Trump is a warrior for us, but I'm hearing people talking about the banks, the big banks, sent Trump to finish the job to get things the way they want them to be as far as the digital currencies, because once things go digital, we're screwed. They're in control of us. There ain't nothing that we could do. They'll know everything that we do. They'll also be wanting to get rid of a lot of us as far as depopulating, and through one way or another. They have tons of ways to do it. There's nano dust that they use. There's frequencies, all kind of stuff they have all over your house, including your Wi-Fi, also your digital power meter, your digital gas meter, and even maybe possibly your water meter. Isn't analog anymore. It is digital and sends out frequencies that are extremely harmful. Also, the 5G towers. There's all kind of new sicknesses happening now. Just the health. Everybody's health is going downhill, and there doesn't seem to really be a way out of it. And the government and the people that are here, supposed to be here to defend us in our Constitution, which involves our health, and people who plot against us, it just doesn't seem to be happening. I have heard RFK say some things that I really do like about, basically warning people against the digital currencies and digital IDs and things like that. We're watching the UK fight right now, fight with everything they have. They don't have guns anymore, so they got to fight with, signs and throwing bottles and lighting stuff on fire. Right now, we still have gun rights here, but it really doesn't matter. They can get rid of us without having to shoot a single bullet at us. We watched them do that to Hawaii, to Lahaina specifically, and also our West Coast with the fires that all just so happened to start at the exact same time, and boats that were anchored, hundreds of yards offshore, off the coast of Lahaina, they caught on fire also. That wasn't an accident. That was on purpose, and they used something that flies in the sky that shoots some type of energy laser beam that catches stuff on fire. They call it a DEW, a directed energy weapon. It just, I want to give y'all good news. The only good news I'm really seeing is also on the back flip side of it. I'm seeing people reporting on the same news that it's actually not so good. And it really does show that it really isn't so good, because all the people are saying that we're going to win this and things are going to be good and that we're beating the globalists and whatever else. Those are the same people that are not at all talking about digital ID and the dangers there. There are something in the state of Missouri called Real ID, which is basically a digitalized form of ID that you could have on your phone. They're passing this around everywhere. They are in a hurry to get this done. There is a depopulation agenda that is supposed to happen before 2050. Basically getting rid of more than a third of our population is what it seems. I hear different stories on it. But it is drastic. Crazy stuff going on with that. And I'm trying to find actual good news of people that are actually in higher up places that are fighting for us, but it just doesn't seem to be really happening. Also, like I said, I have noticed a lot that on our news, not only obviously Fox, but some of our independent news channels that are based on YouTube or other similar platforms, are completely ignoring the elephant in the room, which is the digital ID and overreach of these 13 families and the World Economic Forum, World Health Organization, the UN, and a few other similar groups of people. Sitting there listening to some speeches made by the UN, I heard this woman straight up say, like, why own a phone when you could just lease one and you ain't got to worry about having to pay for it if it breaks? Why own a washer and dryer, she said, or even a dishwasher? They're literally what I stated before, what they said, which a lot of you have also seen, with them saying that you will own nothing and be happy. It is completely true. That is what they are wanting to do. And they're not planning on living by the same laws as us. They're going to own stuff. They're going to have things that they have that's going to, because it's them, it's their families that are going to be running it, and they have mutual respects in between them. And to them, we are useless eaters or whatever. I posted something earlier on it from a book, and that somebody highlighted all the stuff in the book, the stuff that they're wanting to do to us. It's just 13 families, 13 psychotic, Satan-worshiping families that we're up against. 8 billion people against these morons. Actually, not quite that many now. I'm sure a good many have died with the pandemic. They have did certain things to us using the thing that was supposed to fix the pandemic, which was actually obviously a lie. It's done more to hurt us than anything else. People are dropping dead like flies that have received that needle. So, but still, there's tons of us, and people are just, from what I can see, don't seem to either be that worried about it or to know enough about it to have an opinion. But it is bad. So, like, for instance, I said I was listening to them talk earlier, and it was people making speeches at World Economic Forum. I just haven't ever heard anything like that. It's just so hard to believe that it's true, but it is true. They want us to eat the bugs. Like I said that stuff before. They believe that red meat is an occasional treat. There's going to be a carbon tax, and they know that none of this stuff is true. They know that there is no there's nothing happening to our environment. There's no global warming. There's no hole in the ozone layer. There's none of that stuff happening. But they have to have something to use to get what they want. They have to blame it on something else. They can't just be like, well, we want to control you. They have to say, well, our Earth is in dire need of saving, and so our agenda is the only thing that can save you, and so you have to comply. When it's not true. None of that's true, because they're not going to stop flying around in their jets or eating steak or any of the stuff that they like to do. They don't live the same lives as us. They eat healthy food. Their kids aren't exposed to all of the negative frequencies that we are, and if they are, they consume something or live in a certain way that it doesn't affect them the way that it affects us. People have to wake up, or we're not going to make it. I don't know how much longer freedom will exist here. Freedom that I can drive from here where I live now a couple of states over to go visit family, or if I want to go on a hunting trip or a fishing trip, or if I want to go see the East Coast or the West Coast. Soon that might not be available to us. Either that means we won't be here, a good portion of us that will be offed, and we'll be pushing up daisies out of a community grave, or we just won't have those freedoms at that point. They'll be taken away from us, kind of like what happened in Australia when they took away any of their repeating arms other than bolt actions and single shot rifles type of a deal, or single shot pistols, whatever else. They more and more want to attack your means of defending yourself so that you're helpless, and they want you to give up your rights. They don't want to completely take them from you. They want you to not stand up and say anything, and so it's not their fault, it's your fault. That's how, They believe in retributive karma or whatever it's called. They believe in that stuff. That's just part of their religion. As a kid, I missed the blissful ignorance of just thinking everybody was, people like the all the police and all the politicians really just cared about our best interests and didn't want people to die, and that everybody was had a heart, basically. But that's just not the case. Something has to happen. I know, like I said, like you go searching on certain platforms trying to find a good news source, which I'm not really a good news source. I'm just basically ranting, telling y'all what's going on. I do not have a podcasting studio or a means of splicing clips to my videos to show y'all where I'm getting my information. This is easy enough for you to find, especially if you're just kind of, scrolling through Facebook, short videos, whatever. I see tons of stuff on there, especially with the digital IDs. But I know that it's not everybody that's seeing that. It basically puts us into an algorithm, and what you're interested in is what you see, and what you're not interested in, you don't see. Every once in a while you'll see something that you don't normally see. But for the most part, if you like watching videos of people racing horses and riding horses, that's what you'll see a ton of. And then every once in a while you see something similar, maybe some four-wheeler riding and some cooking videos. It's hard to really get the truth out there. Right now we are being plotted against, and they have an agenda, especially, I see a lot of stuff on the year 2030 or the 2030, the year 2033, which the number 33 is important to those people. And also, by the year 2050, that's when they want to have their population goals completed. If you can go Google up a picture or images of the Georgia Guidestones while they still existed, it explains all this about by a certain time having the population under so many people per section. I'm not exactly how it says it. Also, one world government, one world religion, one world currency. It spells all this stuff out for you on there, but somebody went and destroyed the Georgia Guidestones. And like I said, up until this point, I had really hoped that Trump was here to help us. We voted him in there, but, have we been tricked? Did they put somebody in there that we would just trust no matter what? And really behind the scenes, he'd be getting things ready for enslavement for us. I don't know. I know I hate to say that, but it just seems like I'm not seeing the things happen that I want to. And at the same time, I'm hearing other people say that he's getting a stable coin ready for us, but it's also digital, which can coincide with a CDC and also a social credit score system. If you don't have control of your money, you don't have control. They're in control, and they could enslave us. It's just as simple as that. Like, just think about it. All your money, like I said in previous videos, you have your money in the bank. There's no such thing as cash anymore. All you have is a credit card or debit card type of thing that you use, or your digital ID, which would be linked to your bank account, and you could just scan your phone or the palm of your hand at the gas station. If there's no internet, you have no money. All they got to do is shut down the internet. Or if, like the social credit score thing, which is right now in China, they have a social credit score system. They're cashless, as far as I know. And they have the digital IDs there. The same people who are wanting to implement digital ID here in the United States and in every other country is the same group of people that lobbied for it to be implemented in China, where the government there embraced it, and they're basically slaves. It seems. I don't know all the details on it or how happy the citizens are there, but those same exact group of people are the same people who want to implement it here. So why would it be for any different of a reason? We will completely lose our freedom because of it, and there's no way to get out of it at that point. You obviously at that point you would be disarmed, and you would be helpless. It is absolutely scary. Now, I hope and I pray that we have a way out of this time, and that these people will be exposed for what they are, and that all the plots against us will fall, including the frequencies, the 5G towers, all the things that they're doing to us to poison us and to make us confused and have all the issues that we have. We're basically only half human now. Like, we don't have we don't operate at the capacity that we were created to because of what's happened to us. The stuff that they put in our food, the stuff they put in our water, the frequencies that we are exposed to, that actually do hurt us extremely bad. That's why birds and wildlife and our bees, honeybees, want nothing to do with the 5G towers. They feel the effects terribly and try to stay as far away from that stuff as possible. I've watched footage of people flying their drones next to 5G towers and them being just like melted, basically falling down and just being completely ruined. That can't be good for us either, Also the Wi-Fi that's in our house and constantly having a cell phone in our face that emits frequencies and radiations that are not good for us, having that in our pocket all the time. Bill Gates even significantly regulates the amount of time that his kids have and use technology because he knows how dangerous it is. But he implements it on the rest of us. He also doesn't vaccinate his kids. He makes sure his kids aren't vaccinated. He isn't vaccinated, most definitely he isn't vaccinated with the same vaccinations we get. It is definitely a scary time to be alive. The more people aware of this, the better on us it will be. But they know that they can't use certain avenues, which is like the stuff they did during COVID and lockdowns and stuff like that. So they have to use other ways of, implementing these things. Right now, they're rolling it out secretly and silently through iPhone and allowing people to do it kind of mess with it on their own. And a certain amount of people will enroll in digital ID with iPhone. And the state of Missouri and other states have something called Real ID. It's not completely digital, but it links your identification to a digital, some type of digital system. It's time for us to fight. We have to, or we will not make it at all. And also be involved in church and pray. Have kids and live and try to do your best to live a good life and make money and to continue no matter what you do to fight against these people. Whether it's you putting out a sign in your front yard that makes people think that just says simply say no to digital IDs, and maybe and also putting one of those like little square things that has a bunch of little square dots all over it that you scan with your phone and it brings you right to a link. Maybe making stickers like that and putting them all over telephone poles and in bathrooms or wherever that people can scan with their phone, and it brings them right to an awareness site that exposes digital ID for what it is. All kind of stuff like that could work. Also, like I said before, writing letters to your local politicians, state senators, congressmen, and representatives, and your governors, letting them know that you know what this is and you do not want it. We know that it leads to slavery. We do not want it. They keep track of those letters. Like, if they go from like just getting 1 or 2 a month, and next thing you know, they're getting like 30 or 40 in a week, they're going to pay attention to it. It's going to be, it's going to be logged. They're going to keep track of that, and they're going to eventually respond to it and have to, have some action according, whether it be, whatever, it does make a difference. Like I said, I'm not here to make money. It would be cool because then I can afford some type of a studio, and I could do this in a way that's more entertaining and easier to follow along and not get bored, by being able to add little clips of things going on that I'm talking about at this specific point of time in my videos. But it's okay as long as people hear what I have to say and they're like, let me go check in on this to see if this is really a real deal. And so they go look up, what's going on with digital ID in the UK, and they're like, holy cow, this is real. Let me see what's going on with social credit scores and systems that track your carbon daily usage, supposedly. They call it that. They just want to control you and limit the amount of resources that you can consume, so everything is cheaper, and it takes less people to make a certain number of people to survive. That's what they want. That's part of depopulation. People have to consume less because there's going to be less people. That's what they want. So as long as my videos get that to happen, get people to go check and see for themselves, that's fine with me at this point. This was supposed to be a channel oriented towards, hunting and fishing and outdoor gear reviews, firearms, ammunition, bows, arrowheads, broadheads, whatever, hunting boots, whatever, all that stuff. But we won't be able to do any of that anymore soon. That's why on this channel I've started doing what I'm doing now. I've seen it. I know that it's true. They're openly admitting it. But people are not paying attention, it doesn't seem. Whenever I see people posting on Facebook that, things about the vaccinations or COVID, and people put a lot of laughing emojis because people have woken up to that. That's why they know that won't work again. But they're doing things through backdoor measures now that people aren't paying attention to and aren't aware of. If the general public was aware of this and we all knew the dangers and what it leads to, people would stand up and say no. We have Second Amendment rights. I hope that a group of people that is equipped and trained to carry out that responsibility will at some point soon do it. Because I don't know how, like I said, I don't know how much time we have left. I have kids that I want to see grow up to have a good life also. And will it happen? I don't know. You have kids also, and I pray for your kids. Like, I hope that you and your kids, are given clarity by our Creator to think properly and clearly so we can make the best decisions possible for our future. But regardless of what we do, at some point, we're going to lose. The Bible says that there will come a time that will be like the days of Noah. And there will be somebody that will rise to power, and a lot of Christians will die, and anybody who does not receive the mark will die. But until then, we'll fight. I believe at this point that it's not God's timing, but there is a group of people who are pushing for this that are Satan worshipers. Don't really want to get into that a whole bunch. Like I said, I don't want people thinking I'm crazy. But the deeper you dig into this, the more you understand, the deeper you go, it gets scary. But anyways, I got to try to figure out what to call this video. But I love you. And definitely, Jesus loves you. And I will see you guys next time.